Stop. Before you toss another handful of change into a jar, look twice. That ordinary wheat penny could be hidden treasure sitting right in your hands. I'm taking you inside the story of the Lincoln wheat penny, the details nobody talks about, the tiny clues collectors chase, and the reason one overlooked coin can become a silent fortune. Stay with me, because the next discovery gets even more shocking. Coin number 1. Imagine finding a dark, dirty old penny and almost throwing it away. That is exactly where the danger begins. This is a 1950 Lincoln wheat penny with no mint mark, showing black spotting and a fine condition appearance. Most people see age, wear, and discoloration. Collectors see a coin worth examining. And that missing mint mark matters. A 1950 Philadelphia issue normally has no mint mark, so the first thing you should do is verify the date and identify exactly what you're holding. The year itself carries a fascinating American backdrop. In 1950, the United States was moving through a major post-war transition, with the economy adjusting after World War II and the Korean War beginning that year. Lincoln cents were still being produced in enormous numbers, but everyday coins lived hard lives. They traveled through shops, pockets, cash registers, vending machines, and countless hands. Decades of spending meant that enormous numbers of these pennies disappeared into circulation, while far fewer survived with attractive original surfaces. Now turn the coin over. On the front, you should see Abraham Lincoln facing right, with liberty to the left. In God We Trust above his portrait, and the date 1950 on the right. With a Philadelphia coin, there is no mint letter beneath the date. On the reverse, the famous 2 wheat ears frame the inscriptions United States of America, 1 cent, and E pluribus unum. That simple wheat reverse is exactly what makes these old cents instantly recognizable and collectible. Here is where your fingers can tell you something. A standard Lincoln wheat cent from this era weighs about 3.11 grams, measures approximately 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and is about 1.52 millimeters thick. If by girth you mean the circumference around the coin, that is roughly 59.8 millimeters. The coin is made from a bronze alloy of approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. So if your coin feels dramatically different, stop and investigate, rather than assuming it is worthless. But don't mistake black spots or a rusty-looking surface for automatic rarity. Natural toning, oxidation, dirt, and environmental staining can tell part of a coin's story, but they do not automatically create a valuable variety. What matters is the combination of date, mint status, condition, surface quality, originality, and any genuine minting variety or error. Most people miss this. The absence of a mint mark on a 1950 penny is normal for Philadelphia, not proof by itself that the coin is an ultra-rare mistake. And this is why your next move matters. Do not spend this coin. Never clean the coin. Scrubbing, polishing, chemicals, or abrasive materials can permanently damage the original surface and destroy collector appeal. Original toning matters, especially when a coin has aged naturally. If you think you have something exceptional, handle it by the edges, keep it away from moisture, and let a qualified professional examine it. Professional grading is critical when serious money may be involved. Collectors become obsessed with tiny details, the sharpness of Lincoln's hair and ear, the lettering, the wheat lines on the reverse, the date digits, the rim, scratches, stains, and signs of cleaning. On the reverse, look carefully around 1 cent and the wheat ears. On the obverse, inspect the date and the area beneath it for any unusual feature. But remember, damage caused after minting is not the same thing as a genuine mint error. Now comes the part that makes this coin so fascinating. Your example is described as being in fine condition with black spotting, but the $81,000 figure you supplied should not be treated as a guaranteed market price for an ordinary 1,950 Philadelphia wheat cent. Actual value depends heavily on authentication, grade, variety, eye appeal, and documented sales. Without a genuine rare variety or exceptional example, a claim of $81,000 would need strong auction evidence. That distinction protects you from believing a huge number simply because it appears in a video title. Still, the hidden treasure feeling is real. Imagine a coin that looks like pocket change becoming the subject of a collector's serious attention because of one overlooked detail. At an auction, genuinely scarce examples can attract intense bidding because collectors know that once a desirable coin disappears into a private collection, finding another can become difficult. Supply shrinks, while interest in classic US coins continues to pull collectors back toward the pieces they remember seeing in everyday change. So check your coin before you dismiss it. Confirm the 1950 date, verify the no mint mark Philadelphia issue, examine the surfaces under good lighting, and look for anything genuinely unusual rather than manufactured or damaged. Patience matters. Sometimes the smartest collector is the person who refuses to rush, refuses to clean, and refuses to spend a coin until they know exactly what it is. This is not about believing every unbelievable price you hear. It is about understanding what could be hiding in plain sight and knowing when an ordinary-looking penny deserves a second look. Your 1950 wheat penny may be a piece of American history, a collector item, or, if it contains a genuinely rare feature, a much more interesting discovery. Either way, do not spend this coin until you've checked it carefully. And don't go anywhere, because this was only the first door. The next coin brings a completely different combination of age, minting history, condition, and collector obsession, and one tiny detail could make it far more dangerous to ignore. Next up, coin number 2. The coin that gets ignored fastest is sometimes the one worth stopping for. Picture a worn 1951 Lincoln wheat penny with no mint mark, sitting unnoticed in an old jar, drawer, or handful of change. At first glance, it looks ordinary. But before you dismiss it, look at the date, the missing mint letter, and the smallest details on the surface. This is where a forgotten penny can suddenly become a serious collector discovery. The 1951 Lincoln wheat penny came from an America still adjusting to the enormous changes of the post-war era. The Korean War had begun the previous year, manufacturing was expanding, and the country was dealing with changing economic pressures. Millions of cents were being produced for everyday commerce, then passed from person to person. Most were spent without a second thought. Decades later, many were worn, damaged, lost, or melted down, leaving collectors searching for attractive surviving examples. Now turn yours toward the light. On the obverse, you'll find Abraham Lincoln facing right, with "In God We Trust" above his portrait. To Lincoln's left is liberty, while the date 1951 appears on the right. Beneath the date, there should be no mint mark on a Philadelphia example. That blank space is important, but remember, a missing mint mark on this coin is normally expected, not automatically an error. Flip it over, and the famous wheat reverse appears. 2 wheat ears frame the central inscriptions, 1 cent and United States of America. Above them is E pluribus unum. Those wheat stalks are more than decoration. They are the signature design that identifies this classic Lincoln cent series and makes these coins instantly recognizable to collectors. And now feel the coin. A standard 1,951 Lincoln wheat cent weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures about 19.05 millimeters across, and is roughly 1.52 millimeters thick. Its circumference, or girth, around the edge is approximately 59.8 millimeters. The composition is primarily bronze, about 95% copper, with 5% tin and zinc. If your coin feels dramatically different, don't immediately assume it's valuable. Verify it properly. Here's where your fine condition example becomes interesting. A coin described as fine condition should still show substantial wear, but important design elements remain visible. Collectors will examine Lincoln's hair, cheek, jawline, lettering, date, rim, and the wheat details on the reverse. They also look closely for scratches, corrosion, environmental damage, cleaning, or unusual minting characteristics. That blackened or dirty appearance can make an old coin look mysterious, but darkness alone doesn't create rarity. Natural toning can be desirable, while harsh corrosion or artificial treatment can hurt the coin. Original toning matters. If this penny has been sitting untouched for decades, resist the temptation to make it shine. Never clean the coin. No polishing cloth, chemicals, rubbing, or household cleaner. A shiny but damaged wheat penny can be less desirable than a naturally aged original surface. Now check the area beneath 1951. There is no mint mark because Philadelphia cents did not carry one. Compare the lettering and date carefully. Then inspect the reverse for anything genuinely unusual, misaligned details, unusual doubling, die characteristics, or other features that deserve professional examination. Don't confuse scratches or damage that happened after the coin left the mint with a true minting error. And this is where patience becomes your advantage. People often hear an enormous number attached to an old coin and immediately assume every example is worth that amount. The $75,100 figure you supplied should not be presented as a guaranteed value for an ordinary 1,951 Philadelphia wheat penny in fine condition without a documented rare variety or exceptional auction example. A genuine market value depends on authentication, grade, variety, surface quality, and comparable sales. But don't let that kill the excitement. The real treasure is knowing what you're looking at before you spend it. A scarce variety, exceptionally preserved example, or authenticated mint error can completely change the conversation. That's why serious collectors examine coins carefully instead of judging them from one glance. At competitive auctions, genuinely desirable wheat cents can create intense bidding. One collector may be looking for a specific date, another for a high-grade example, and another for a variety missing from a collection. When the right coin appears, bidders don't always want to wait for another opportunity. Collectors may hold desirable pieces for years, reducing the number available to other buyers. So here's your move. Verify the 1951 date, confirm the no mint mark, Philadelphia origin, inspect the condition under strong light, and look for genuine, unusual features. Keep the coin protected by its edges, avoid unnecessary handling, and don't rush to sell or spend it. Professional grading is critical if you believe you've discovered an exceptional specimen. This is the hidden treasure side of coin collecting. Not every old penny is a fortune, but the person who knows what to check can avoid throwing away something genuinely interesting. Your 1951 wheat penny carries a piece of American history, and if it has an authenticated rare characteristic, its importance could rise dramatically. Do not spend this coin until you know exactly what you're holding. Most people see one old penny and move on. A collector stops, checks the date, studies the surfaces, and asks one dangerous question. What if I just found the one everyone else overlooked? And stay with me, because the next coin takes this hunt into even more intense territory. One tiny difference separates an ordinary survivor from the kind of coin collectors can become obsessed with finding. Next up, coin number 3. There's something dangerous about a 1944D Lincoln wheat penny. It looks like a little piece of pocket change, yet this particular year sits right in the middle of World War II era American coinage. If you have one, don't rush past it. The D mint mark, the condition, the color of the surface, and even tiny details around the date can completely change the collector's story. What looks old and ordinary could deserve a much closer inspection. The year 1944 was unlike almost any other period in U.S. history. America was fully committed to the Second World War. Factories were producing military equipment around the clock, and metals were under enormous strategic pressure. The mint had already experimented with zinc-coated steel cents in 1943, but in 1944 bronze returned for a regular Lincoln cents. That transition makes 1944 pennies especially fascinating to collectors today. Coin world. Now look at the front. You should see Abraham Lincoln facing right with "In God We Trust" above him, liberty to the left, and the date 1944 to the right. Directly beneath the date is the small D mint mark, identifying the Denver Mint. That tiny letter is one of the first things collectors check. It can look insignificant to an ordinary person, but on a collectible wheat cent, that little D can be the beginning of a much deeper investigation. Flip it over, and the classic wheat design appears. 2 wheat ears surround the words 1 cent and United States of America, while E pluribus unum sits above. Victor David Brenner's Lincoln design had already become a familiar part of American life by this point. Imagine this exact coin traveling through wartime America, across a shop counter, into a worker's pocket, through a cash register, and eventually into someone's forgotten collection. And here is something you can actually measure. A normal 1944D wheat cent weighs about 3.11 grams, measures approximately 19.05 millimeters across, and has a plain edge. Its bronze composition is about 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. If we use girth to mean the circumference around the coin, it is roughly 59.8 millimeters based on that diameter. These specifications are consistent with published references for the 1944D cent. Coin world. But don't let the big number attached to this coin make you stop thinking critically. Your example is described as fine condition, with a brown or barwon shade. Fine condition means the coin has circulated and shows noticeable wear, but major design features remain visible. That worn appearance can tell a story, but color alone does not make a coin rare. Natural brown toning can be perfectly normal. Heavy corrosion, harsh cleaning, or artificial alteration can hurt collector appeal. Here is the detail I want you to check carefully: the D mint mark. Don't just look for the letter. Study its shape and the surrounding area under magnification. The 1944D series contains recognized varieties, including 1944DD repunched mint marks, double die varieties, and 1944DS overmint mark varieties. Professional references specifically catalog these varieties, which is why that tiny area beneath the date deserves attention. PCG. And there is an even more dramatic possibility collectors know about: Some 1,944 cents were struck on leftover steel planchets from the previous year's steel cent production. Those pieces are genuinely unusual and are completely different from an ordinary bronze 1,944D cent. So if someone claims a 1,944D is valuable simply because it is old, slow down. The exact coin matters. The metal, variety, condition, and authentication matter. Now, imagine this coin sitting in an old box for decades. Maybe the brown surface looks dull. Maybe there are dark spots. Maybe the rim isn't perfect. Most people would dismiss it instantly. A collector won't. They will inspect Lincoln's hair, cheek, and jaw, the date, the mint mark, the lettering, the wheat lines, the rim, and every suspicious-looking mark. This detail changes everything. Genuine mint characteristics are valuable clues, while scratches created after the coin left the mint are simply damage. And whatever you do, do not clean this coin. Don't polish it. Don't scrub it. Don't use vinegar, chemicals, baking soda, or anything else trying to make the copper shine. Original toning matters. Cleaning can leave microscopic scratches and permanently alter the surface. If you believe your coin could be an unusual variety or error, preserve it exactly as you found it and seek professional evaluation. Professional grading is critical before treating a dramatic valuation as real. Now let's address the $47,100 figure you supplied. That should not be presented as a guaranteed value for an ordinary 1,944D wheat penny in fine condition. Published market references show ordinary examples can trade for dramatically less, while genuinely exceptional varieties and rare compositions can command much stronger prices. For example, PCGS records major 1,944D varieties and reports an auction record of $49,938 for a 1,944DS example graded MS67 plus RD, a completely different coin from a normal circulated fine condition piece. PCG. That distinction is exactly what separates real treasure hunting from hype. You don't need to believe every giant price you hear. You need to know what makes a particular coin different. A rare variety, unusual planchet, exceptional preservation, or authenticated error can turn an ordinary-looking cent into something collectors aggressively pursue. And when collectors want a specific coin badly enough, the bidding can become intense, because truly desirable examples aren't always available when buyers want them. The 1,944D cent had a reported mintage of 430,578, so the date and mint mark alone do not make every example ultra-rare. But varieties and unusual pieces create separate collecting niches. That's why you should examine your coin, rather than immediately throwing it back into circulation. USA Coin Book. So here's your checklist. Verify 1,944. Confirm the D mint mark, examine the surfaces, check the metal and weight if something looks unusual, inspect the mint mark area under magnification, and look for legitimate die varieties rather than random scratches. Keep your hands off the surface as much as possible. Hold it by the edges. Protect it. Be patient, because patience can be the difference between accidentally destroying a discovery and preserving it long enough to have it properly identified. Do not spend this coin until you know exactly what it is. This is why old wheat pennies remain so addictive. You can hold a coin that once moved through one of the most dramatic periods in American history, and hidden among ordinary survivors are pieces with unusual stories collectors desperately want. Your 1944D may simply be a circulated wheat cent, or it could contain a feature that demands a much closer look. And that's the real suspense. You won't know until you check. So take out that old penny, look directly beneath the date, study the D, and inspect the surface before you make one careless decision. Because the next coin takes us somewhere even more dangerous. A coin where one tiny difference can separate an ordinary survivor from a collector's dream. Stay close. The next discovery could make this one look easy. Next up, coin number 4. If you find a 1946 Lincoln wheat penny with no mint mark, don't make the mistake of judging it by its worn appearance. This is one of those coins that can sit unnoticed in an old collection, drawer, or jar for decades. The surface may look ordinary, but the date, mint origin, condition, and tiny characteristics are what deserve your attention. Check it before you spend it, because one overlooked detail can change the entire story. The year 1946 arrived just after the end of World War II, when America was shifting from wartime production back toward a peacetime economy. The mint had also returned to the traditional bronze composition for Lincoln cents after the wartime experiments with steel cents. Philadelphia struck an enormous that year, and because Philadelphia coins carried no mint mark, that blank space beneath the date is completely normal. Now look closely at the front. The obverse shows Abraham Lincoln facing right, with "In God We Trust" above his portrait, "Liberty" on the left, and 1946 on the right. Beneath the date, there is no letter, because this is a Philadelphia issue. The tiny area around the date and the rim deserves a careful look. Collectors examine the numbers, lettering, portrait details, scratches, and signs of unusual die characteristics, rather than assuming every old-looking mark is an error. Turn it over, and you get the unmistakable wheat reverse. 2 wheat stalks frame 1 cent and United States of America, while "E pluribus unum" stretches across the top. This design was created by Victor David Brenner and remained on the cent until the wheat reverse was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959. Now feel the physical difference between this old cent and modern pocket change. A standard 1946 wheat cent weighs about 3.11 grams, measures roughly 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and is around 1.5 millimeters thick with a plain edge. Its traditional composition is approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. If you want to check the circumference, or girth, of a 19.05 millimeter coin, it works out to roughly 59.8 millimeters. But here's the trap. Old does not automatically mean rare. Your coin is described as fine condition, and millions of 1946 Philadelphia cents were produced. That means an ordinary circulated example isn't automatically a fortune. What makes this hunt exciting is the possibility of an unusually preserved coin, a legitimate variety, or another authenticated characteristic that separates one example from the millions of ordinary survivors. And this is where the surface becomes important. If your penny has natural brown toning, dark areas, or an aged appearance, don't rush to make it shiny. Original toning matters. Never clean the coin. No vinegar. No polishing compound. No abrasive cloth. No scratching away dirt. Cleaning can leave permanent hairlines and alter the original surface, potentially reducing collector appeal. Here's what collectors obsess over: Lincoln's hair and facial details, the sharpness of Liberty, the shape of the digits in 1946, the rim, the lettering on the reverse, the wheat stalks, and any unusual doubling or die characteristics. The missing mint mark itself isn't an error on a 1946 Philadelphia cent. It is exactly what you expect. That distinction is crucial. And there is another reason not to dismiss the date. The 1946 series had 3 major mint issues: Philadelphia with no mint mark, Denver with a D, and San Francisco with an S. The San Francisco issue had the lowest mintage of the 3, while a recognized 1946 S-cited overmint mark variety is a particularly interesting specialist collectible. So when you find a 1946 penny, identifying the mint is only the beginning. Coin's value. Now let's talk about the $255,000 figure you supplied. That should not be presented as a guaranteed value for an ordinary 1946 Philadelphia wheat penny in fine condition. Current references put normal circulated 1946 Philadelphia cents dramatically lower, while exceptional high-grade coins and rare varieties can command much more. One reference lists a top recorded sale around $14,950 for a 1946 Philadelphia cent in very high grade, while exceptional 1946 varieties can reach still higher levels. U.S. coin's value. That doesn't make the coin boring. It makes the hunt more exciting. Because now you're looking for the reason a particular coin is valuable. Serious collectors don't simply ask, "How old is it?" They ask, "What makes this example different?" At a competitive auction, that difference can matter enormously. A normal circulated cent may receive little attention, while a genuinely rare variety or exceptional certified specimen can trigger aggressive bidding. Collectors may hold desirable pieces for years because finding another example in the same combination of variety, grade, color, and surface can be difficult. So here's your collector checklist. Confirm the 1946 date, verify that the area beneath it is genuinely blank, inspect the coin under good lighting, study the surfaces, and look for legitimate varieties rather than random scratches. If anything looks unusual, photograph it and have it examined. Professional grading is critical before believing a spectacular valuation. And remember, patience creates wealth in collecting. The biggest mistake is rushing, cleaning a coin, spending it, selling it to the first person who offers money, or believing an enormous price without checking actual auction evidence. So if you have a 1946 Philadelphia wheat penny in fine condition, don't throw it back into circulation just because it looks worn. Protect it, examine it, and understand what you actually have. It may be a common survivor, but it is still a genuine piece of American history. And if a legitimate, rare characteristic is hiding there, that tiny discovery could completely change the conversation. Do not spend this coin until you've checked it properly. Most people will see an old penny and move on. A collector sees the date, studies the surface, checks the mint area, and asks the question that keeps this hobby alive. What if this is the one everyone else overlooked? And now, get ready for the final reveal, because coin 5 is where the hunt gets even more intense. One small detail could make the next penny far more dangerous to ignore, and you definitely don't want to discover its secret after you've already spent it.